here's the big question. How are entrepreneurs like us, who have been hustling and struggling to make it to success, who seem to make it one step forward only to fall two steps back, who are dedicated, determined, and driven? How do we finally break through and win? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brian Kelly, and this is the Mind, Body, Business Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mind, Body, Business Show. We have another fantastic episode lined up for you right here tonight. I hope you're watching live. If you're not, if you're watching this as a recorded video or you're listening to it on audio podcast, then next time, write this down. Head on over to themindbodybusinessshow.com and then scroll down to any of the buttons. There are many of them that say what and where to watch, or how to watch, where, how. You'll see it. Click on it, opt in, and then you'll get automatic notification the very next time we air live. We go live once per week, rare occasion twice, but usually just once per week on Thursday nights. And we are here for you. The Mind Body Business Show is a show that I had developed with you in mind, the business person, the entrepreneur, that person that's looking for one more strategy, one more tip from someone who has the experience, the background, and has been successful in their own right. And that's why I bring on successful entrepreneurs from all over the world each and every week. And we have a great time. We have a chat. And through that chat, you are going to learn many things that you will be able to put into place in your business darn near immediately. And tonight will be no different because every show is value packed. So you are in a good place. Stick around. This is going to be a lot of fun. The Mind Body Business Show, it was created based on the result of my focusing on just very successful people. I just spent a period of, say, about 10 years just thinking, what is making these people so much more successful than perhaps me? And as I'm going through and studying them, like mentors of mine, authors of books, some that I met in person, others that I could never meet because they've already passed, and other individuals, people that have been on this show as well. And I was like, what the heck is making them more successful than the rest of the majority of the people? And I found that three common things kept bubbling to the top. And number one was mind. Yeah, you're right. It's the very namesake of this show. And that stands for mindset. And to a person, these successful individuals had mastered the powerful, positive, and most importantly, flexible attributes of their mindset. And then body literally means that these successful individuals took the time and care to take care of their physical body. That's right. That four-letter word called exercise. Yeah, it's a little bit more than four. Exercise, they would take care of themselves both through physical exercise and through proper nutrition. And then business is very multifaceted. And these individuals, what they had done, they mastered the various skill sets that are necessary for one to build a thriving business and then scale it and grow it. Skill sets like sales, team building, systematizing, leadership. I could go on for quite some time. Marketing, there are so many of them. And being very astute, that mastering any one thing can take a very long time. Like they say, 10,000 hours to be claimed an expert at anything. The good news is you don't have to actually master every skill set, not even all of the ones I just now rattled off, which there are many more beyond that. The good news is if you master or focus on mastering just one, put your focus on mastering just one, shift wherever you are now, focus on that one. Doesn't mean leave all the rest to go to the wayside. Just focus on this one. You can go work on those in the after time that you have, but focus on the skill set of leadership. And then you can leverage that skill and bring in individuals who have mastered or in the process of mastering the other skill sets that your business needs. And so it's good news. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It's about solving problems, solving issues, solving pain points. And every step of the way, that is what a true entrepreneur thrives on, because it's like our life's blood. It's an amazing thing. And speaking of amazing things, another thing that very successful individuals do is, to a person, they are also very avid readers of books. And with that, I want to segue very briefly into a little segment I call bookmarks.
Bookmarks. Born to read. Bookmarks. Ready, steady, read. Bookmarks. Brought to you by reachyourpeaklibrary.com.
And yes, by the way, in case you're wondering, Jesse Popick is here. He's waiting. He's in the wings. He's like scratching on his monitor saying, "Let me in, Brian. I'm ready." Just a minute, Jesse. We'll get to you in just a second. And I mean it. It won't be long now. Reach Your Peak Library. What I wanted to do real quick is pump the brakes for just a second and give you a quick word of advice, if I have your permission. And that is, Jesse is going to be bringing up resources. I know it. It happens every show, like websites, maybe books, maybe tips or strategies. And one of the things we as humans love to do is while something's going on, we're listening, we're taking notes, we're off investigating. We're typing in the URL into our tablet or to our computer, checking it out while Jesse is telling you the one golden nugget that will free you from everything that's been holding you back in your business at that very moment. And you will have missed it because you're off typing and investigating. So I'd implore upon you, instead of doing that, please, this is for you, not for me, please take notes. Write down things like reachyourpeaklibrary.com as an example. Go ahead, write it down. Start now, practice now. And then after the show is over, after we have signed off, then please go and investigate all of these wonderful resources that you're going to be hearing. Here's the reason why. After speaking on stage for years, it's in the very beginning of that time, I remember I was getting to the juicy part. Being a speaker, I knew when the most compelling part was coming up, and I would notice someone get up and walk out at that very moment. And I felt bad for them, knowing that they're going to miss it. They had either to go to the restroom, or they had the phone in their face, they had a text message or a call come in. And so I learned to say, look, the magic happens in the room, so stay here, stay focused while you're here. You know, for them, don't drink a gallon of water at the next break and then come in, because you're gonna have to race out anyway. They're usually 90-minute breaks. And with your phones, be silent. Tell people you're there, that you're not going to get to them every, the moment that they call you or text you, because it's that important. And it's important for me that you get all of the information from Jesse that you can tonight. So that is my soapbox moment. Real quick, the Reach Your Peak Library is another resource that I had developed. And my team would just add books to this library as I would say, I'm done reading the next one. Put this one in. I like this one. This one had a profound impact on me. And that's the only reason they're here. They had a profound impact on me, either in my personal life or professional life or both. I said, here it is. Go grab the graphics, put the description in there, and put it on reachyourpeaklibrary.com. They are not in any order. You'll notice they're not in alphabetical order. They're not in the time they came out. None of that. They are in the order in which I read them, pretty much. And so they are there for you as a resource, so that you can know that if you're going to go pick up a book and invest your time in reading it, that you at least have a little bit a sense of, okay, someone else who is successful vetted it, so the odds of my wasting my time are greatly reduced. There's no guarantee that it's going to have a profound impact on you like it did me, but the odds are better, because they are business-based books. Oh, the E-Myth Revisit, I saw that fly up. Love them all. Speaking of loving them all, you're going to love this next gentleman. It is that time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we go. Let's bring on Mr. Jesse Popick right now.
It's time for the Guest Expert Spotlight. Savvy, skillful, professional, adept, trained, big league, qualified.
And there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is the one. It is the only Jesse Popick. Woo, yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the intro quite a bit. And I appreciate the library ping as well. Maybe one day my book will be among the listed important and impactful books in your life, Brian.
You know what is almost shameful? You just reminded me to do something. I just finished my own book.
Amazing.
And I don't even have it on my own library yet. That is funny. I'm not kidding you when I say this took me, since inception, over 10 years to complete. And yes, the title is the same as the show. This book inspired this show, the name of the show and everything in it. And I'm actually glad it took that long, because many people such as yourself, Jesse, just like you, would have, they had impact on what I wrote in this book. I used a lot of what I learned from guest speakers like yourself and added that. So that was 10 years of experience also sprinkled in as it went along. So mindbodybusinessbook.com, available now, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Shameless plug. Thanks for reminding me, Jesse.
Shameless plug. I'm glad I could give you an opportunity to plug your own book. I will say that the experience of writing a book has been much more challenging and taking a lot longer than I expected. So I appreciate you for acknowledging that it took you 10 years to put that thing together.
Oh, and I hope it doesn't take you as long, brother.
I cannot afford for it to take 10 years. I don't want it to. I think it'll probably maybe 5. No, far less.
Yeah. If you focus on it, you can get it done pretty quick. It was one of those things that was gnawing at me, and I don't know why, but I finally did it. And I have heard from so many colleagues and friends of mine who have authored books already before, and I just asked them, I said, well, was it worth it? And they just get this glowing look on their face. And it's like, what? And they go, there's nothing like holding your own book for the first time. It's like your baby. I'm like, come on. I'm like, you know what? When I opened the box, I was pretty emotional about it. I was like, this is awesome.
I bet.
They were right.
I can't wait to be holding my own book one day. And I'm pretty far along, but it is interesting that the more I write it, the more it kind of points me in different directions, and doing a lot of research around these topics. And it definitely is going in directions that I hadn't expected when I first started.
Yeah, and it does that. And you start with, I had this perfect outline, and I kind of stuck to it, but inside of it, it took all these bends and twists and turns. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to put an NLP exercise right in the middle of this sucker, neuro-linguistic programming. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to put a link in my book so that'll take people to a video where they can experience NLP as it's meant to be experienced, through voice and having more senses, not just, you can't read it. It's difficult to do it by reading it. I thought, man, I saw all these little twists and turns. I was like, this is pretty fun. Amazing. And so anyway, back to Jesse Popick. I want to give you the introduction that you so richly deserve, if that's cool with you, so people can get an idea about these wonderful, uncomfortable topics we're going to talk about today. I said it. And I will prelude that. I'll say this. As an entrepreneur, everyone watching and listening, you know this. You're very astute. It is best to get used to and comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because when you are at a state of comfort for any extended period of time, you know what that means? That means you're going nowhere. You're not growing. Your business is stagnant. So this is a perfect episode for you to start going down that trail and get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because we are going to do that for you today, tonight, almost guaranteed. Would you say, Jesse?
I think some people might be uncomfortable, and I appreciate you for uttering the idea that we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is definitely part of the pathway I have personally been on. I appreciate you for saying too that if you're not, you're probably stagnant, and that's a good skill to have, is putting yourself in situations where you might feel a little awkward, might feel a little out of place, but you get comfortable there. That's really important.
It's another great thing that I've heard, and I'm sure you've heard this, the mind is just like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So just come into it with an open mind, no prejudging. I mean, it's easy to do that with what we're about to talk about. Just, man, people are going, now, what is it? Come on. It's going to be awesome. So first, let's introduce this man, and there'll be hints in this introduction that will hit you in on what's going on. Jesse Popick is an author and advocate for men's sexual health and well-being, known for his groundbreaking work. Brian's off tonight. And this is his upcoming book, Beyond the Bedroom, a Maverick's Manual for Men's Sexual Health and Well-being. And I'm one of those that I don't even know what the heck that means, men's sexual health. And we're going to find out tonight. I am so excited. His journey from personal struggle to enlightenment has positioned him as a leading voice in advocating for a holistic approach to sexual wellness. Through his experiences, Jesse has cultivated a profound understanding of the importance of honesty, recovery, and healthy sexual practices. His mission is to empower men by breaking down the stigmas surrounding sexual health, offering insights and strategies for achieving physical and emotional fulfillment. Jesse's work is a beacon for anyone seeking to navigate the complexities of modern masculinity with integrity and authenticity. And the curious meter is pegged right now. I'm excited to learn from you, Jesse, what all this means, what we're going to be talking about, I mean, what brought you down this path of men's sexual health and well-being to begin with? And then maybe we can extract from you, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, Brian, that's a great question. And I think that some of it might be self-evident. So I struggled with my own sexual health and well-being, and certainly didn't have a very clear idea or understanding about what sexual health and sexual well-being was, why it might be important to me, why it might be important to other men, why it might be important to our partners. And so after years of struggling really with my own sexual health and in a way that was very dishonest, and very not revealing. In fact, I spent a lot of years withholding what was really going on for me. I came to start studying sexual health. I came to start studying sexual well-being and began to understand what sexual health actually is, what sexual well-being actually is. And as I learned more, the more I realized, wow, well, based on my previous experiences not being very healthy, I imagine that my life's work might be to actually encourage men in particular, but generally people, to feel more comfortable talking about sexual health and well-being and understanding what that is and why it's important for men in particular, but for all people to, again, be more comfortable being uncomfortable, talking about something that is universally, like, none of us would be here if it wasn't for sexuality. And yet it's something that we really shy away from wanting or being comfortable talking about.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, no, I was going to say, so, and this is typical of many successful entrepreneurs, is that they go through a time in their life where they did struggle with something and they found a solution to it and realized, I can help other people do the same thing I went through. And that becomes, quote unquote, a business. And I love that because, you just, and it's being transparent and authentic at the same time, especially for you, Jesse, to say that you went through this very struggle. That's why you are now focusing on it and helping people with it.
Exactly. It's my time to be of service. It's my time to put together the pieces that helped me and kind of create what I suggest is sort of an outline or general signposts, if you will, to keep me healthy sexually. And it really begins with understanding what sexual health is and what sexual well-being is. A lot of people assume that sexual health means going to the doctor, maybe being tested for sexually transmitted diseases, and that's about it. Other people might think that sexual health is inferring, your sex life. How's your sexual health? Are you sexually active? That might be part of it as well. Both of those approaches are very clinical and very sort of medicinally oriented in terms around what sexual health is. Sexual health and well-being, for me, the well-being part includes the mental health. And, to be honest, Brian, your show, the Mind Body Business, I mean, there's nothing more mind body business oriented, quite honestly, than sexual health and well-being, because the mind plays a great deal in our sexual health. Our sexual well-being is also deeply affected by our mental health. So, talking about sexual health outside of the physical, outside of the clinical, outside of the medical, really has a lot to do with mental health. I imagine you're aware, Brian, that it is Men's Mental Health Month this month.
I was not.
Well, there you go. So the timing of this, accidental or not, this is a topic that affects many men. And again, I spent time doing a 12-step program and being exposed to other people who were struggling with their sexuality and sexual health. And I took pieces from that experience. I took pieces from my experience with Radical Honesty, which is a book written by Brad Blanton. As Brian pointed out, take notes because I'll be talking about a lot of other people and making a lot of references. And Brad Blanton and his book, Radical Honesty, had a great positive impact on me, understanding what really being honest was about, and really understanding that true honesty has more to do with not withholding than it does with telling lies. I mean, telling lies is pretty obviously, that's not being honest. Equally as unhonest is simply withholding the truth. And that experience, I continue to work with Radical Honesty. I imagine I am a Radical Honesty. I embody Radical Honesty as much as I can. And that's done a great deal to help me. And I've also, in my studies, I have a certification in problem sexual behavior. I have a certification that's pending in sexuality, or I should say human sexuality consultant. And I got both of these certifications through an organization called the Sexual Health Alliance. The Sexual Health Alliance, or SHIA, really is designed to help licensed therapists who want to incorporate sex therapy into their practice. And they offer these licensed therapists certification programs that leads them towards the accreditation that they need to incorporate sexuality into their practice. You'd be surprised, Brian, how few therapists, licensed therapists, understand sexuality or even have been educated about it while they're in school. There's very little that actually therapists are exposed to in education. Surprising. So she exists to help promote that approach for licensed therapists, and for non-licensed therapists like myself or counselors, they offer these certification programs. And in the education that I had with Shia, I got exposed to 6 principles of sexual health. And that's a lot of what my book is about. These 6 principles had a profound impact on me as well. And they were really developed by a sex therapist named Doug Braun Harvey. And he and his partner put together what's called the Harvey Institute. And Doug developed these 6 principles of sexual health. And the 6 principles are pretty straightforward and actually, I think, broadly accepted outside of even sexuality. Do you want me to tell you what they are, Brian?
Oh, gosh, no, we don't want to know what those are. Of course, yes.
Okay, so the 6 principles of sexual health are consent. In the age of the Me Too movement, consent has become a much more mainstream word. It's become a much more mainstream topic, and it's an area that we can dive into great depths with. Consent is more than just asking permission. There's a whole exercise around consent and who's consenting to do what and whom, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But the first principle is consent. The second is non-exploitation. The third is honesty. The fourth is our shared values. The fifth is protection from unwanted pregnancies as well as unwanted sexually transmitted diseases. And the sixth is pleasure. And being that we all, well, if you're watching in the United States, if you're a U.S. citizen, our background in this country is very Puritan. We don't like to talk about pleasure, sexual or otherwise. And these 6 principles I have found to be very helpful for me to measure my own sexual health against. So I can check all 6 boxes. If I am getting consent from my partners or partners, if no one's being exploited, if everyone's being honest, if I've had a conversation with my partner or partners about our values and what we care about, what we like, what we don't like, if I'm using protection, and everyone involved is getting pleasure, everyone's being healthy. Now, if I only can check a few of these boxes, then I can say, okay, maybe I'm not being as healthy as I could be. And to me, this is really important. I don't want these 6 principles to be a heavy-handed, this is what you do, and if you don't, then everything's horrible. But I really use these 6 principles as a guidepost, as I say, sort of measure my own health against all 6 of these, and I can see to myself, yeah, I'm being very healthy, or maybe not so much. Maybe I can improve in these areas.
Holy smokerino! So, yeah, I'm just looking through the.
Yeah, so I'll also, just because you've given me the window to just keep blabbing, so I'm going to keep blabbing. So each of these 6 principles, for the most part, and my focus here on men's health is really important because, again, I struggled with my own. I know that this is a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of men to address or even bring up. It potentially requires looking in the mirror and asking yourself, how healthy are you being? Do you even care about this stuff? Perhaps there's even a weakness or a vulnerability here that might make you feel really uncomfortable that you really have to face. If you're willing to do that, if you're willing to do some, as you suggested, in the mind part of the mind-body business, be of an open mind and realize that growth will happen if you recognize where your weaknesses are so that you can make them stronger, turn a weakness into a strength, or at least have that weakness be diminished. That requires an open mind, and that requires a mindset of growth to be able to continue to say, hey, I'm good today, tomorrow I can be better. And these 6 principles, I think, as I said, are very useful. But for men, we want to do stuff. Theory is blah, 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 blah. Give me something to do. So what I've done in my book is I've also incorporated, as best I can, actually things that we can do to take action against each one of these principles. For example, consent. I mentioned a few minutes ago that consent is more than just asking permission. There's a whole dynamic around consent. And if I am consenting to do something with you, We can ask all kinds of questions about who am I doing this for? Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for you? Are you doing this for me? Are you doing it for you? There's this very interesting sort of wheel that can be divided into 4 parts. And I'm leading up to talking about a fantastic woman named Betty Martin. So bettymartin.org, she has developed a process or understanding of consent called the Wheel of Consent. And this little pamphlet here is downloadable from her website. It's a little foldable, little pocket carry game that you can play with your partner. And what in 3 minutes you can figure out is who is consenting to do what for whom and for why. And we don't spend a lot of time thinking about this. I imagine I certainly didn't. In fact, the first time I played this game with my partner, we had to reread the directions and do it a couple times before we got it right. Consent is, like I said, much more than just simply asking for permission and giving permission. And so this is one area, again, of the 6 principles where we can actually do something. We can practice consent by actually investigating what we're doing and who we're doing it for. So I love that each of these 6 principles offers us as men the opportunity to actually take action, to do something to change our situations.
Very cool. Very cool. And we're going to learn even more about this as we go through. And this is very interesting and intriguing. I didn't know it was so in depth, which is actually a good thing. I'm liking that because
well, I mean, why say shallow? We got to go deep with this stuff. Let's be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reference the name of your show again. I love the fact that it's the mind body business because, again, to me, human sexuality, male sexuality, it's about our minds and it's about our bodies. And these 6 principles, I think, do their best to help ensure that we are of sound body and mind in our sexuality, and that we, even if we're scared, even if we're vulnerable, that we have a place that we can turn to where we can feel reassured that what we're doing is on the right path, so to speak.
And I love that you said scared and vulnerable, because those are also very key elements of being a successful business person, is being willing to be vulnerable and showing, being transparent to a point. I mean, we don't have to go crazy with it and, try to be on a reality show as a result or anything like that. But it is a key ingredient I found in successful entrepreneurs and business people, is that they are authentic and transparent in that they are sharing with everybody, look, I'm a human being just like you. I put my pants or shorts on one leg at a time, unless they got some kind of device where they can run and jump into it, which I haven't seen yet. And yeah, it helps on that regard as well. So it gives you're going through a zone of discomfort. It's okay while you're going through that zone to find pockets of comfort, because those will keep you going through and punch out on the other end.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you said the 10,000 hours. I mean, 10,000 hours requires a lot of work to become an expert in anything. And if you haven't even begun to even question your own sexual health or sexual well-being, you got a lot of hours ahead of you before you become an expert on it. And that's just from being a healthy person, not even necessarily studying it or understanding it to the degree that I want to. And I don't think I've completed my 10,000 hours quite yet. I'm almost there. But even after I hit 10, I'm going to continue to learn, because having a growth mindset sort of sets me on a course to always be learning about this stuff. I've learned so much in the last few years, and there's still a lot to learn. So one thing I want to do, though, because I know that this show really is about entrepreneurism. So I have a program, I have a workshop where over 6 weeks, we dive into each of these 6 principles from a human sexuality standpoint. I also have a couple other things I'll talk about later in the show. But one thing that you and I talked about before we started was the ability to actually shift these 6 principles from a sexuality standpoint into a business standpoint. And I know that sounds like crazy, right? God forbid an HR person is watching this and you're thinking, oh my God, we cannot bring anything having to do with sex into the workplace. These 6 principles are amazingly transferable from human sexuality into the workplace. And I've actually also developed a workshop around just that. And I'm gonna spin it on its head for a minute. I'm going to repeat all 6 principles, and I'm going to associate how I believe they actually fit into the workplace as well, if you'll allow me.
Of course. Yes, that's why we're here to, I love how you just said that you may not have reached expert level yet. And when you do, you will continue to learn. And that is another sign of a very successful entrepreneur. I'm sprinkling in little tidbits of success in business as you go through this, which it's great because I found that, when I said books that affected me either personally or professionally or both, it's always both, always. Business and personal life are so intertwined, and there's so many interconnected things that are going on. You're building relationships in a business, you're building relationships in your personal life, and treating people as people, it doesn't change between the two. So anyway, sorry for that little segue, but I just wanted to
I love it.
plug.
Listen, to truly be authentic, which is something that I think you and I share, a desire to be authentic ourselves and to encourage people to feel comfortable to be their authentic selves. This is an important part of the radical honesty part that I've been studying. This is certainly vulnerability and authenticity is kind of required to hit all 6 of these principles from a sexual standpoint. I think one thing that's really important to know is that, these 6 principles from a sexuality standpoint all require one fundamental key ingredient, which is communication. And you have to be a good communicator in order to check these boxes. Communicating with yourself or communicating with others is kind of essential. If you have difficulties or challenges communicating, this is going to be the first part of your journey, is overcoming those areas of communication weakness to be a strong communicator. So check this out. So these 6 principles, from flipping it on its head from a sexuality standpoint to an in the workplace standpoint. The first one, again, is consent. Are we working in an area where we all are consenting to do this work? Have you hired me? If I agreed to join your team to do sales or do account management or whatever it is I'm going to do, I'm consenting to the work. So that's an easy one to check off. Non-exploitation. We know that on a global scale, there's exploitation in the workplace all the time. And so being able to navigate the workplace around exploitation or non-exploitation is another area where I think this principle transfers very easily into the workplace. Honesty. Are we being honest? I do a lot of sales trainings in addition to the sexuality work that I do. And being honest is the foundation of the sales approach that I take, and has been a foundation of the sales that I've done previously that's led to a great deal of success. People think that salespeople always have to be dishonest. They always have to be that used car salesman who's hiding things. And my approach to selling has always been to be as honest and as transparent and as authentic as possible. And that's led me to great successes. So honesty in the workplace is crucial. Shared values. I think a lot of time when you join a new team or you are in the workplace, you lose track. Are we all aiming for the same thing? Or if you hear your CEO or a leader talk about, do we all have the same shared values? Are we all driving towards the same goal? This is a pretty basic sales function, right? Are we all sharing the same outcomes? Are we all headed in the same direction? Do we all share the same values with the success of this company, whether it's a product or a service? So again, shared values, very easily transferable. Protection. This one's a little tricky, but in the workplace, again, if we're talking about areas of work which require protection, and I'm talking about like actual protection, guys who are working on buildings, guys, men and women who work in areas that are potentially dangerous, right? Are they being protected? We have OSHA, we have certain standards in the United States here where worker protection is really important. And so protection is easily transferable from one to the other. And then the last one is pleasure, which again, here in the United States, our Puritan selves, God forbid we enjoy our work, right? God forbid we find pleasure in our work. Ryan, I think you've overcome that. I imagine you have found a great deal of pleasure in your work, and I do too. Like I think that some of the happiest people I know are usually people who are doing work that they find so pleasurable, they don't even consider it work, right? So I just easily shifted the conversation from human sexuality and using these 6 principles to the 6 principles in the workplace. And I really appreciate you, Brian, for giving me the opportunity, because your show is so focused on entrepreneurism and business. You've given me the opportunity to be able to talk about that in a way that I haven't as a guest on other shows. So I appreciate you giving me that window.
That's right. You saw it and heard it here first on the Mind Body Business Show. Exclusive story, now breaking. That's very cool. And that pleasure part for business. Yeah, I thought of it as well for, when I'm working with somebody and I've helped them in some way that gives them either a smile or more confidence or they've made more money in their business. That is very pleasurable to me to know that I have had something to do with their improved success. So yeah, it's not difficult to enjoy what you do, and you get to help people and do it successfully.
And the word helping people, is pretty broad. I worked in the restaurant industry for a long time. I worked in the back of the house. I cooked for a long time. I worked in the front of the house. I served tables for a long time. In both of those positions, certainly as a cook, you're creating food. This is something that people will benefit from. People will find pleasure in. I found pleasure in creating dishes and cooking the food and serving the food. Being a server also, like I loved serving tables because I imagined myself being a guest and receiving the type of service that I was so readily and willing to give, right? I want to walk into a place and feel taken care of and have someone, almost on a friendly basis, tell me what's going on with the menu and what's good, and building a relationship, as brief as that might be, and building a relationship around trust. It can happen even between sitting at a table and, as a guest and working with a waiter. That is a brief but potentially very important and potentially very pleasurable relationship that you've built.
It is, and it's a two-way street. Sitting at the table, I didn't always have the ability to build rapport with people as fast as I've been able to after learning a science called NLP. And it's really simple to do, and it's fun. I've always loved people. I just wasn't good at, you said it, the big C word, communicating, interacting. And when I learned how to build rapport and how to communicate better through the NLP, the science, my gosh, I'd be best friends with everybody. I mean, I'm that guy. You can step on the elevator, you know how it's always quiet. I'm the one that speaks first now. Used to be I ain't saying crap no matter what anybody does, Well, and it's not being a knucklehead. It's just, whatever. I'm looking like, hey, that's a pretty cool pendant you have there. Tell me about that. Anything to break the ice, just to get a smile, break their state of mundaneness. It's so fun. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that has to do with being curious, right? I imagine, Brian, you're a curious person. I know I am. And asking questions, is an integral part of selling. It's something that I talk about in my selling methodology, and certainly asking questions as a salesperson myself, and having trained salespeople and led salespeople. Asking questions is always important. Spinning the business piece back to the sexuality piece, the communication part is so important. How can we know if we have shared values, for example, unless me and my partner or partners are able to communicate what we like and what we don't? I'll just tell you, like, if I meet someone new and they're fully into, I don't know, BDSM, and I'm not, well, we have to have a conversation in order to get to that point where I realize, well, you know what, maybe this isn't going to work out so good for us. Like, maybe we don't have shared values. And that does require getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and being a good communicator, and being willing to be vulnerable, and maybe share stuff that you might fear being judged about. You might fear just have fear around judgment. I've just met, this is our first date. I'm gonna really open myself up and talk about shared values. Is that risky? Is that something I ought to do? I would say yes. I would say yes.
Well, and that one example, if they didn't ask questions, if they didn't get uncomfortable by asking the questions, well, then likely they will become uncomfortable when the time comes, because something's happening. They're like, what is going on here?
Exactly. You can definitely avoid some uncomfortable situations in the future by maybe having an uncomfortable situation right here and now. And having that conversation that might make you a little sweaty under the collar. But this is important, though, because again, I like how you and I keep kind of going down this road where these principles don't just have to do with sexuality and sexual health, and that's been my focus, but they're really about relationships, right? And that's why I love that after studying these principles a bit, understanding them a bit more, that I was able to say, hey, you know what? These actually fit like a glove in workplace ethics. And let me tell you, me trying to track down an HR person who's willing to, embrace this. If there's an HR person watching this show right now, contact me, because we got some work I want to do. Like, seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, this is part of the normalization of this. And let's be clear that these 6 principles can be very directly related to business. We don't talk about sexuality at all. Because they just lend themselves so readily to the workplace, which I found really, really interestingly universal,
And those HR people are writing you up as we speak.
This will definitely go on my permanent record, I'm sure. I am sure. I mean, I cannot tell you how important the conglomeration of all the things that I have learned in the last few years, pulling from my work background as a salesperson, as a sales leader, understanding honesty and what authenticity really means to me, with radical honesty, and these 6 principles of sexual health. These areas, kind of pulling the best pieces from all of the areas that have influenced me the most to drive me towards a more healthy person in general, and certainly a more healthy sexual person specifically. I found all these pieces, and it's almost like making one of those blankets from different pieces of the blanket. You create a whole big one. I mean, it's a patchwork, right? It's a patchwork quilt is what I'm doing, and I'm really excited to share this book once it's completed, because it'll have some anecdotes about me and my experience with each of these 6 principles, but really it'll be a more in-depth look of the 6 principles. And then again, as I said, like, what can we do to be doing something more than just talking about this? Like, what actions can we take as men to practice consent and to practice honesty and to practice pleasure? Like, what are those things that we can actively do? And I'm excited to share that with everyone.
And so once you've achieved that level of sexual health, and you've checked the 6 boxes to a point where you're satisfied with them yourself, for you and for those that you've worked with, once you've reached that state, that level, what else happens to that person or to you in your life? I mean, does it help you exude more confidence? I mean, what kind of things permeate from that experience?
Well, first, let me start by saying I don't think that you arrive at an endpoint, that this is an ongoing fluid dynamic. And that as I said, I use these 6 principles to just gauge my own sexual health against almost, dare I say, like a diet. I know when I'm eating unhealthy, I know when I'm eating healthy, and I can beat myself up about that or not. And so I want these 6 principles to be more leaned on for me and for anyone who might be listening or interested in this, in that way. This is not a hard pressed, you must follow these 6 principles or you're completely horrible and unhealthy, but more like, well, you know what? I didn't use protection the last time I had sex with my partner. So maybe that was one area where I wasn't being healthy, but all the other boxes were checked. So I don't think there's an end point. I think this is an ongoing dynamic. I think that your sexuality will kind of rise and fall depending on the situation, depending on how you're feeling on any given day. So I want that to be clear, that this is a fluid and ongoing situation. That there's not an endpoint to this, and it's something that you can continuously be rechecking on yourself about. Maybe this week I only checked 3 of the boxes as opposed to 6. So being able to look at yourself and be honest and authentic with yourself about how healthy or unhealthy you're being is, I think, a lot easier done when you have some kind of structure or foundation to measure against. And that's what these 6 principles are about.
Gotcha. All right. So what I would like to do is just go a little deeper into it, what you're doing. I know you have several things going on yet. You mentioned a workshop. You also are offering what I consider to be a gift, because it's you're doing it for no compensation, if I understand that correctly. And that is a great way for anyone to dig deeper, to ask you some questions that they may not want to ask here publicly. Like maybe I wouldn't want to ask you anything publicly, but that would give them a private place to dig deeper and say, Jesse, tell me more about this so I can learn more. So can I pull up your website and just have you do a brief talk on what you do, what your ideal client looks? It sounds like so far it's men, and we got that down.
Yep.
And,
I love it. I love it. So anyone who's interested in human sexuality is a potential great client. I think men struggle with this the most, and I am a man, cisgendered male, and I want to make other men feel comfortable to be vulnerable and talk about this stuff. My website you're looking at right now includes both opportunities for my sales training as well as this more personal development training around sexuality. The gift that Brian mentioned before is on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. I open up a phone line and anyone can join. It's a free call, and we talk about what I've just been talking about. What is human sexuality and sexual well-being? And specifically for men, like, what do men struggle with? What are the questions that you have around human sexuality and human sexual wellness? we spent about an hour talking about the 6 principles, and I really open it up and try to create a container where people do feel comfortable asking questions. Not many people share. It's more of a Q&A where people ask me questions and I'm happy to have answers or provide answers. I've had a few people join and open up and actually be vulnerable in a small group scenario. But as you said, Brian, this is my gift. This is something that I know I can do. I struggled, actually just a few months ago, I started doing these calls because I was finding myself a little bit frustrated with trying to actually do something. Again, like what action can I actively take? And this is it. I can offer myself up at least 2 hours a week to happily talk about human sexuality, happily answer questions about human sexuality. I am a board certified sexologist, in addition to the certifications that I have from Shia as well. So, I know my limits. Certainly, if someone were to get on a call and be really seeking out and needing licensed therapeutic help, I would direct them in the way to go in that way. I have resources there where I can absolutely refer anyone who's really struggling and really needs professional level help. I have a network of therapists who I've worked with and who I continue to learn with. But it is a gift. It is a gift to just say, hey, listen, here's a safe place to come talk about something that might make you feel uncomfortable. And maybe at the end of the hour, you'll walk away having learned a little bit more about sexual health and well-being. Maybe you've learned a little bit more about yourself, and maybe you're slightly less uncomfortable talking about your own sexual health and well-being.
Love it. Love it. And so for everyone listening on podcasts that may not have the ability to see anything visually on the screen, his website is jessepoppick.com, and it's spelled JESSEPOPPICK.com. jessepoppick.com, JESSEPOPPICK.com. And when you go there, scroll down about a little bit more than halfway down for his amazing gift. And you can see it is a 1 hour introduction, and it's free of charge. And you can ask, and he will show you those six principles on that call. And here's the thing: we're on this show for an entire hour, so you get a full hour of his time. That is a massive gift, if you ask me. As you know, anyone's time is their most valuable asset, and that includes yours. And what I would just urge you to do is, when you do schedule that time with him, is to treat it with respect and treat it as if you paid, say, $497 or something substantial for it, so that you're sure to be there in a place of respect and to get what you came for. Have your questions written down, be prepared, and be professional. He has given up his time for free, and that's something we should not take lightly. So I say this anytime someone gives away a gift that involves their time, is please treat it with the utmost respect that it deserves. And we know Jesse deserves that. He's here to help, and that's where his heart is. And so that's the beautiful thing about this. If you're at all hesitating, no, Jesse is here to help. He's not going to browbeat you. He's not going to hard sell you. He's not going to take you and put you in a chair and water drip torture you. He's not going to do any of that.
None of that at all.
No. And so the other thing you offer beyond that, which, that can be a great stepping stone to say, well, I want to go deeper. You also mentioned you have a workshop. I see it's right beneath where I'm at right now on the site. So
right.
What does that involve?
So I just started my second 6-week session yesterday. And what that is taking about 90 minutes every week for 6 weeks and diving into each one of the 6 principles in depth. So I talk a lot more, let's say, about consent. I talk a lot more about Betty Martin and the Wheel of Consent and her work. I've done trainings with her and what that is about. I talk a lot about non-exploitation and honesty, again, talking about radical honesty. So we just take each of these 6 principles, and over 90 minutes, once a week virtually over Zoom, we dive in. And my hope is that these free calls will generate some curiosity, and that maybe if you come with questions, or even come with no questions, but just are interested in talking about this or hearing about this topic, that this might lead you to say, you know what, this is really interesting. I need to really get into this. There's more here than just surface level question and answering. And that's what the workshop is about. We really go into each of the 6 principles over the course of 6 weeks. It's not a huge time commitment. It's 90 minutes a week. And that is something that you pay for. You can see the price right there. It's $820 for the 6-week program. And again, diving into that program, anyone's welcome, men and women both. My focus really is on men, but I've had men and women both join. And the free calls will always remain free. And again, I'll be fully transparent and suggest that, yeah, these free calls are breadcrumbing you into asking more questions, being more curious, and then saying, you know what, I really want to invest some money, put my money where my mouth is, and really get into understanding what these 6 principles are and how they can help me overcome feelings of insecurity, of fear, of vulnerability around my sexuality.
Yeah, and you could be deemed a sexual health coach for folks. And here's the thing I would say about anyone looking at going, you want me to pay money for this? I'm like, well, here's the thing. If you were to get a coach or a mentor, hopefully you are paying for that. And I hope you are paying a lot of money that's a little bit uncomfortable for you. And why would I say that? Because when you have skin in the game, when you have an investment going on, you are going to take that interaction much more seriously, and you are going to get more out of it, is the bottom line. You will get more out of it by investing. It's not about spending money so Jesse can go off and go buy another yacht. It's so that you will get the most out of this. And he's, 6 weeks that's a long duration for him to be there to help you. He's committing to help you for 6 weeks. I would dare say 820 is probably a low number. And just know that any time that you are facing something that costs money and you may be questioning, you might even be saying, boy, that's a lot of money. Well, is it? What would happen if you just kept doing what you're doing right now? Think of it that way. What is that costing you to stay where you are today? And that's the other way to look at this. And this permeates all business and all offers. And I've learned at a deep level, especially when it involves some kind of coaching or mentorship, which is really what Jesse is offering here. He's not calling himself a coach outright, but I think that's part of what he's doing, is helping you to understand and navigate sexual health primarily from the men's standpoint, and also women as well. So just have that in your, and I'm not getting an affiliate fee. I'm not getting anything for helping to promote. When I see someone who truly enjoys what they're doing, who is good at it, and who is here to help people, then I will shout it from the rooftops. And that's part of what I've done on this show for many guests, not everyone, but for many guests that have come on the show. And so take advantage of his free call, do that, get to know him at a deeper level, one-on-one, or just jump in and say, I'm ready. I'm going to go in and just go hit the workshop. JessePoppick.com is where you get that information one last time. And there's one more gift, and I'll give you another parting word here too, Jesse. There's also, at the end of the show, you're going to love this one. You're going to love this one a lot once I clear some things up here on the screen. And that is, we're going to end this show with a eye-popping question. Whew, it's going to be something. I mean, you guys thought talking about sexual health was big. It is. In fact, it's way bigger than the question I'm about to ask, but I got to build it up somehow. And so it is. It's a very profound question. I end every show with it, Jesse, and I want to kind of pre-frame and set expectations on it in one way, and let you know that just like this book has been completed, just like your book is getting completed soon, there will be yet another book, and the book will be what will be containing. It will be a book that is consisting of every answer that I got to this one question with your name on it as a collaborative. So every guest speaker who says, yeah, I want to be part of it, after I reach out and get it ready to go, will be included in this book. And the title of the book will be, I can't tell you, it's going to be the question itself. So it's not going to be there yet. You'll know in a minute. So before I do that, some of you may have noticed scrolling on the bottom of the screen at times that if you stay until the end watching live, and we have a good number of people here. My goodness, I see 92, 93. It just went up again. Anyone who stays on watching live, that's another reason you want to come on and watch live. I'm more than happy and glad that you're listening on podcasts and that you're watching recorded videos. This is where it happens, is engagement. You get to ask questions and say hi. But I also am offering a prize of a 5-night vacation stay at a 5-star luxury resort. And these are all over the world. The winner gets to choose from, I don't even know how many. There's a bunch. You get to choose from different parts of the world, countries. And these are 5-star vacation resorts. And I give one of these away every show. It's so exciting. And speaking of water drip torture, this is not that. They are not going to take you and whisk you down to the basement, strap you into that chair, water drip torture you, and then sell you on a timeshare. It's not going to happen. That's not what this is. No, it is a bona fide vacation, and you don't want to miss. I have a buddy who's won it twice, gone on the vacation twice in Mexico. He chose Mexico, and said they didn't know he was a free guest. They had no idea. They don't know any different. So they treated him just as if he was royalty, like you were a full paying guest. So that is yours. And what you get to do is write down a URL and then enter to win. So we'll do that right now. We are at that time where we'll do that. And then we'll come on the back of that and ask Jesse that one awesome question that's coming up that he is just going, what the heck is this question? Just tell me what it is by now. The buildup, my God, here it is. To enter to win. I'll put it up on the screen. Write this down. Don't go to it yet. And we will monitor the entries after the show is over. After we say goodnight, that's when you enter this URL and you enter to win. And one lucky winner will be chosen. I can't wait to see who it is. By the way, Jesse, I always say this, guest experts are also eligible to enter. I have had guest experts win. That's you.
That's fantastic. So
you have
I didn't realize that I could enter. I feel like that gives me I get no extra credit for being a guest in order to win.
Completely random chosen winner. So go ahead and get your own pen and paper out, Jesse, because I'm going to put it up on the screen. And what you want to do is write this down. It's ryp.im/vacation. RYP stands for Reach Your Peak. That's the sponsor of this very wonderful gift and this show. ryp.im/vacation, all lowercase. Write it down. Don't go there now. I'll see it. I get automated text messages when people are doing the entering for this thing. So I know if you guys are jumping the gun. So don't do that. Don't be that person. Wait till the show's over. Don't worry. You'll still be eligible. And now we'll bring back the man, the myth, the legend himself. So Jesse, this question, I asked it kind of randomly. I've been doing this show for over 5 years now. It's hard to believe. It's pretty awesome. Great run. And over that time, I'd ask various questions. And on occasion, that one that I'm about to ask you would be sprinkled in there. And I started realizing, holy smokes, these answers, they're profound. They're like powerful. They're amazing. They're tremendous, stupendous, all this. And I'm thinking, you know what? I think I'm just going to close every show with that. And then I got the idea. I'm going to have a collaborative book made because of the incredible profoundness of not the question, but the answers, and to put them in and give everybody credit and have, everyone who's not an author yet can be an author. If you're an author, you got another book you can say you're an author of, co-author. So there's two things about this question that are really amazing, Jesse. One is there's no such thing as a wrong answer.
Love that.
It doesn't exist. It's not a quiz. It's not a test. It's exact opposite. And that is the only correct answer will be yours because it will be unique to you. And it will be. My 5 years of doing this is like unbelievable. This is a freaking awesome question. And the other thing is if you get it immediately, or if it takes you 20 seconds or even more to come up and formulate, wow, guess what? That too is perfect because it's your answer. So there's no pressure except for the leading up to this question has probably got you all in a bunch of nerves and wondering what the heck.
I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, Brian. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
I love it. Yes. So the teacher is also a magnificent student. I love this guy. So, and that's how you become a magnificent teacher, by the way, for everyone watching and listening, is become a stellar student. So remember that when you call him for that free 1 hour, be a stellar student because you will then be sitting in his chair one day. All right. Here we go, Jesse. Are you ready?
I am.
You are? All right.
I think I am. It's quite a buildup, Brian. Quite a buildup.
All right. Here we go. Jesse Popick, how do you define success?
That is a great question. I can see how you might get a different answer from every person you ask this. How do I define success? I imagine I define success as, first of all, I imagine success is not an endpoint. I imagine it's ongoing. And I imagine that success really has to do with happiness and authenticity. I know we've used that word a lot, during the last hour, and it gets tossed around sometimes flippantly, the word authenticity. But I imagine really arriving at success requires you to be happy, to be authentically yourself, be happy being yourself, and that whatever you're doing from a work standpoint. So I don't want to tie success directly to work. I think you can be successful vocationally. I also think you can be successful personally, but that the personal success will only lead you. It can't not lead you to professional success as well. Again, the authenticity and humbleness and ability to continue to have an open mind and grow. It probably is, to me, that's my rambling definition of success. I don't want to put a pin in any one, like success is 1 + 1 = 2, or just follow these simple steps. I'm not sure that success is easily found that way. I think when we tie success to money or to material goods, these are all fleeting. We can't take these with us when we move back to stardust. So I think internal personal happiness, personal satisfaction, and the ability to be confident enough with yourself that you can be your authentic self. So that is true success. If I've done nothing other than myself for myself in my life, is that as I continue to grow and learn, I become more and more self-aware. I become more and more authentic, and that is success. And that authenticity will bleed into all other areas of my life.
I love it. And that was yet another amazing and unique answer. Here's the cool thing. No two people have answered that the same way yet. I don't think they ever will. The more I do this, I'm thinking, and that's what I love about it. And the cool thing, another cool thing, consider this, Jesse, what your definition of success is today. I wonder what it will be 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Will it be different? Almost guarantee. That's the beautiful thing about that question, because it's really appropriate for the moment now and where we are in our lives now. Because when I was 20, success would have been, I got a Lambo and I got a, right?
Exactly. The idea of success and what that means changes throughout your life. You ask a 90-year-old person that, you ask a 20-year-old person, you get very different answers, for sure.
And the great thing about what I get to do, Jesse, and interviewing people like you, every single person, you included, did not use money as one of their measuring sticks for success. Any amount or anything, material or otherwise. Not a single person. I've had one or two mention money, but it was an afterthought. Yeah, money's great. They included in their answer, but it wasn't the answer that they were giving. Great.
Well, Brian, I think that probably goes to the quality of your show, the quality of you, and the quality of your guests. I mean, I think that financial and material success is very simple, very easy, very shallow. I imagine that we go deeper here. Your show, it's the intention here for entrepreneurs to understand how to be better how to be more successful. I think all of this ties very neatly with a bow on top around the title of your show, right? The mind. And I love that you talked about the mindset. It's really the mindset, the body, and business. And all of these things are intricately related. To have a healthy mindset, to have a healthy body, you will undoubtedly have business success.
Man, I'm going to take you on the road with me. Thank you for all that. That's awesome.
And I'm not getting a kickback for that either. So, Ryan, I'll help promote the show, because I love how it can incorporate everything that I'm working on so easily. And I really appreciate being a guest on your show because of that. It's easy for me to make references,
And thank you for showing up and showing up with such professionalism and having a good time at the same time, being authentic and transparent, because it takes effort on your side as well. And you went through a lot to get on this show, I know, because all the emails and things that the hoops we had you jump through to make it a quality show. Thank you for doing that, for showing up. And I'm saying that on purpose so people understand who you are more at a deeper level, that he takes his business serious. He takes your personal life serious. If you are to reach out to him and get the help, remember, it's jessepoppick.com, JESSEPOPPICK.com. And don't forget ryp.im/vacation right after we sign off, which is right about now. All good things must come to an end. Do they? I don't think so. But this one, out of respect to everybody, including Jesse, let's call it a show. My gosh, we toppled over 100 viewers. That is pretty awesome, Jesse. Good job, my man.
Great. That's great. Well, this has been a pleasure. So there we are. I really been an honor and a pleasure to be on the show, Brian. Thank you.
And the honor and pleasure is all mine. Thank you, my friend. If you can stand for just a little bit after this thing goes off, have a little chat. For everyone else, please do 2 things from this point forward. Number 1, go out and crush it in your business. Why? So you can help and serve more people. And number 2, above everything and all else, please be blessed. That is it for us on the Mind Body Business Show. On behalf of Jesse Poppick, I'm your host, Brian Kelly of the Mind Body Business Show. We will see you again next week. Until then, have a great, great evening, everyone. So long for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Mind Body Business Show podcast at www.themindbodybusinessshow.com. My name is Brian Kelly.